Admiral Kim Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Starship Defender and watched the stars through the main screen. He had been watching space for 20 years, but today felt different. The sensors were picking up something strange from the direction of Alpha Centauri. Captain Lee Junwoo walked up to him with a worried look on his face. "Sir, we have multiple contacts coming our way," Lee said. "The computer says there are about 50 ships and they are moving fast." Kim nodded slowly. Earth had been exploring space for only 30 years since they invented faster than light travel. They had built colonies on 12 worlds and created a small fleet of ships to protect them. But they had never met aliens before. Today, that was about to change. "Get me Dr. Park Sojin on the communication system," Kim ordered. "We need our best language expert for this." Dr. Park appeared on the screen from her laboratory on Mars. She was the smartest person Kim knew when it came to understanding new languages. If aliens were coming, she would be the one to talk to them first. "Admiral, I have been watching the sensor readings," Park said. "These ships are using technology we have never seen before. Their energy output is massive." Kim felt his stomach tighten. Earth's ships were good, but they were still new to space travel. If these aliens had better technology, it could be very bad for humanity. The alien ships appeared on the main screen, 20 minutes later. They were huge and shaped like sharp triangles. Each one was 3 times bigger than Earth's largest warship. They moved in perfect formation like they had done this many times before. A signal came from the alien fleet. Park worked quickly to decode it while Kim waited. The bridge was completely quiet, except for the humming of the ship's engines. "Admiral, I think I have it," Park said after 10 minutes. "They are sending a message in multiple languages, but I can understand the basic meaning." "What do they want?" Kim asked. Park looked scared as she read the translation. "They are demanding that we surrender immediately. They call themselves the Vorthak Empire, and they say we must bow down to their rule or be destroyed." Kim felt anger rising in his chest. Humans had fought hard to build their civilization in space. They had overcome wars and disasters to reach the stars. No alien empire was going to tell them what to do. "Open a channel to their leader," Kim commanded. The main screen changed to show an alien creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. It had 4 arms and glowing, red eyes. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am Fleet Commander Thex Moran of the Vorthak Empire," the alien said through Park's translation system. "You will surrender your worlds and your people to our rule. Resistance is pointless. We have conquered over 12,000 worlds across the galaxy." Kim stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "I am Admiral Kim Dae-ho of the United Earth Defense Force. We reject your demands. Humanity will never bow to any empire." Thex Moran made a sound that might have been laughing. "You are a young species with primitive ships. You cannot hope to fight the might of our empire. Submit now and your deaths will be quick." "We have a different proposal," Kim said calmly. "You will leave our space immediately and never return. If you do not, we will defend ourselves with everything we have." The alien commander stared at Kim for a long moment. Then it really did laugh with a horrible sound that made everyone on the bridge uncomfortable. "Amusing," Thex Moran said. "Very well. We will return to observe your defenses. When we come back, it will be with enough ships to turn your worlds to dust. Enjoy your last days of freedom, primitive humans." The alien ships turned around and jumped to faster than light speed. They were gone in seconds, but Kim knew they would be back. "Sir, what are we going to do?" Captain Lee asked. 12,000 worlds is more than we can fight." Kim turned to face his crew. These were good people who had families back on Earth. They deserved to know what he was thinking. "We are going to do exactly what I told them we would do," Kim said. "We are going to defend ourselves. Get me a direct line to Earth Command, President." Moon Ji-hoon appeared on the screen from his office in New Seoul. He looked tired but alert. The president had been dealing with the news of first contact for the past hour. "Admiral, what is the situation?" Moon asked. "Mr. President, the aliens have made their intentions clear," Kim reported. "They want us to surrender or they will destroy us. I told them we would fight." Moon was quiet for a moment. "Do we have any chance?" "Of winning, I do not know, sir," Kim answered honestly, "but I know we cannot live as slaves to an alien empire. Our ancestors fought for freedom on Earth. We must do the same among the stars. The president nodded. What do you recommend? Admiral. Kim had been thinking about this since the moment he saw the alien ships. We establish a defense perimeter around our territory, 100 light years out from Earth in all directions. We put warning beacons at the edge to let everyone know this space belongs to humanity. And if they cross this line, Moon asked, then we show them what humans are capable of when we fight for our homes and our freedom, Kim said. The next few days were busy. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to build warning beacons. Each beacon was equipped with powerful transmitters and defensive weapons. They sent out messages in every language Earth had ever discovered, plus 50 more that Dr. Park created, based on mathematical principles. The message was simple and clear. This space is claimed by humanity. Any further incursion will be met with force. You have been warned. Ambassador Na Hye-jin worked with the United Nations to get approval for the plan. Every nation on Earth voted to support the defense perimeter. For the first time in human history, all of Earth was united against a common threat. Captain Lee took his ship Indomitable on reconnaissance missions beyond the perimeter. What he found was disturbing. The Vorthak Empire was massive beyond imagination. They controlled 3 entire arms of the galaxy and had fleets of ships numbering in the millions. Sir, the numbers are not good, Lee reported to Kim during one of their briefings. We have maybe 200 ships total. They have fleets bigger than our entire civilization. Kim understood the math, but he also understood something else. Numbers are not everything, Captain. We have something they do not have. What is that, sir? We are fighting for our homes, Kim said. They are fighting to add another conquest to their collection. That makes all the difference. Dr. Park spent her time studying the alien transmissions that Captain Lee intercepted. She learned that the Vorthak had been conquering species for over 800 years. They had never met serious resistance. Admiral, I think they are overconfident, Park told Kim. Every species they have encountered either surrendered immediately or was crushed within days. They do not know how to handle a species that refuses to give up. Kim smiled for the first time since the aliens arrived. Then we are going to teach them something new. General Cho Hyun-sik arrived from Earth with news about secret military projects. He carried orders that were sealed until this moment. Admiral, these projects were started in case we ever met hostile aliens. Cho explained, we have been developing new weapons and ship designs that no one knows about, not even most of our own military. How long until they are ready? Kim asked. Some are ready now, Cho said. Others will take months. But if we can buy time, we might have a chance. Kim looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Vorthak Empire was preparing to crush humanity. They thought humans were weak and primitive. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Send the message to all human worlds, Kim commanded. The line has been drawn. The beacons are active. Now we wait to see if they are smart enough to stay. On their side, Ambassador Na sent diplomatic messages to every known alien species asking for information about the Vorthak Empire. Most were too afraid to respond, but a few sent warnings. The Vorthak had never been defeated. They had never retreated. They conquered everything they touched. But Kim was not worried about the past. He was thinking about the future. Humanity had surprised everyone before, including themselves. They had gone from riding horses to flying between stars in just a few 100 years. If the Vorthak thought humans were still primitive, they were going to get a very unpleasant surprise. The warning beacons transmitted their message across space every hour. The boundary was clear, and the warning was simple. Earth had drawn a line in the stars and told the galaxy exactly where it was. Now everyone would find out what happened when someone decided to cross it. Supreme Overlord Kethavarak sat on his throne aboard the massive command ship Eternal Dominion and felt something he had not experienced in decades: annoyance. For 6 months he had waited for news that the human pest had been eliminated. Instead, his commanders brought him reports of defiance. Explain to me again why these primitives still breathe, Kethavarak said to War Marshal Thexmaran, who stood before the throne. Thexmaran kept his head low as he spoke. Supreme Overlord, the humans have established some kind of boundary around their territory. They claim it is a defense perimeter, but our analysts believe it is merely symbolic. Symbolic. Kethaverax repeated the word slowly. You mean they drew an imaginary line in space and expect us to respect it? Yes, Supreme Overlord. They have placed warning devices at regular intervals. The devices broadcast threats in multiple languages. Kethaverax had ruled the Vorthak Empire for over 200 years. He had personally overseen the conquest of 847 different species. Never in all that time had any species dared to establish boundaries against the Empire. Show me these threats, he commanded. The main display activated, and Dr. Park's voice filled the throne room, speaking in perfectly translated Vorthak. This space is claimed by humanity. Any further incursion will be met with force. You have been warned. Kethaverax stared at the display in disbelief. Then he began to laugh. The sound echoed through the throne room, causing every Vorthak present to tremble. When the Supreme Overlord laughed, it usually meant someone was about to die horribly. They warned us, Kethaverax said when he stopped laughing. A species that has barely learned to leave their home system warned the Vorthak Empire to stay away from them, Supreme Overlord. Perhaps we should simply ignore them, Thex Moran suggested. They control only 12 worlds. Surely they are not worth our attention. The suggestion was a mistake. Kethaverax rose from his throne with fury in his glowing eyes. Ignore them. You suggest that the Vorthak Empire should ignore defiance from primitives? Thex Moran realized his error immediately. No, Supreme Overlord, I did not mean. Silence. Kethaverax roared. Every species in the galaxy must understand that defying the Empire leads to complete destruction. If we allow these humans to exist, others might think they can also resist us. The Supreme Overlord walked to the tactical display showing the known galaxy. The Vorthak Empire controlled vast areas marked in red. Earth's territory was a tiny blue dot on the edge of their space. Assemble a punishment fleet. Kethaverax ordered. 500 ships should be sufficient to demonstrate our power. Destroy their warning devices, and then proceed to their homeworld. Make their destruction visible across the galaxy. Thex Moran bowed deeply. It will be done, Supreme Overlord. How much resistance should we expect? None that matters. Kethaverax replied. Our intelligence reports indicate they possess only projectile weapons and primitive energy shields. Their largest ships are smaller than our escort vessels. On Earth, General Cho Hyun-sik reviewed the latest reports from the stealth reconnaissance ships. Commander Yoon Mi-rae had returned from a dangerous mission deep into Vorthak space with disturbing news. General, the aliens are moving, Yoon reported from her briefing room. I counted 500 warships gathering at a staging area 30 light-years from our perimeter. They appear to be preparing for an assault. General Cho studied the tactical data Yoon had collected. The Vorthak ships were indeed massive and heavily armed, but he noticed something interesting about their weapon configurations. Commander, did you analyze their defensive systems? Cho asked. Yes, sir. They use multi-layered energy shields designed to stop projectile weapons and standard energy beams. Their armor appears to be extremely thick but relatively simple. Cho smiled slightly. Simple armor for simple threats. They have been fighting primitive species for so long they do not know how to handle advanced warfare. Sir, are our weapons really that advanced? Yoon asked. Those ships look very dangerous. Commander, have you been briefed on Project Prometheus? Cho asked. Yoon shook her head. That project is classified above my level, sir. It will not be classified much longer, Cho said. When those Vorthak ships cross our perimeter, they are going to discover that humanity has been preparing for this day, since we first reached the stars. Admiral Kim received the intelligence report about the approaching Vorthak fleet while he was inspecting the new defense platforms around Saturn. The platforms looked like normal space stations, but they contained weapons that the Vorthak had never encountered before. Admiral, we have confirmation, Captain Lee reported over the communication system. 500 Vorthak warships are moving toward our perimeter. Estimated arrival time is 72 hours. Kim felt his heart rate increase, but his voice remained calm. Send the alert to all human forces. Code Prometheus is now active. Across human space secret facilities that had been hidden for years suddenly came to life. On the moon, engineers activated production lines that had been disguised as mining equipment. In asteroid fields, weapons platforms that looked like research stations began powering up their real systems. Dr. Shin Yun-kyung worked frantically in her laboratory beneath the surface of Mars. She was the lead scientist for the Quantum Warfare Division and her team had been developing humanity's secret weapon for 5 years. "Doctor, are the quantum phase generators ready?" her assistant asked. "Almost," Shin replied as she made final adjustments to the control systems. "We will have enough units for the first engagement, but if this war lasts longer, we will need more time in the bowl." Quantum phase technology was humanity's greatest achievement. It allowed ships and weapons to temporarily exist in multiple dimensions at once, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. Engineer Kong Jin-A supervised the installation of adaptive AI systems into the human fleet, unlike the Vorthak, who relied on overwhelming firepower. Human ships would be able to learn and adapt during combat. "The AI cores are online," Kang reported to Admiral Kim. "Each ship will be able to analyze enemy tactics and develop countermeasures in real time." "How long does the adaptation process take?" Kim asked. "Approximately 30 seconds for basic patterns," Kang explained. "Complex strategies might take up to 5 minutes, but the system learns from every engagement." Lieutenant Colonel Bei Wan-ho prepared his squadron of quantum fighters for their first combat mission. The fighters were smaller than traditional spacecraft, but they carried weapons that could phase through enemy armor before exploding inside their targets. "Listen up, everyone," Bei told his pilots during their final briefing. "These aliens think we are primitive. They expect us to fight like every other species they have conquered. We are going to show them something completely different." The Vorthak fleet reached the edge of human space exactly when intelligence predicted. War Marshal Thex Moran stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the human warning beacons with contempt. "Destroy those pathetic devices," he ordered. "Let the humans see how easily we sweep aside their boundaries." Vorthak weapons opened fire on the nearest beacon, reducing it to glowing debris in seconds. Similar attacks destroyed dozens of beacons along the perimeter. To the aliens, it felt like erasing graffiti from a wall. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," a Vorthak communications officer reported. "Put it on the main display." Thex Moran commanded. Admiral Kim appeared on the screen looking calm, despite facing impossible odds. "War Marshal Thex Moran, you have crossed the line we established." "You were warned that further incursion would be met with force, Admiral Kim." Thex Moran replied with amusement. "We have crossed your imaginary boundary with 500 warships. Where is this force you threatened us with?" "You are looking at it," Kim said. 50 ships of the United Earth Defense Force are moving to intercept you." Thex Moran laughed so hard that other Vorthak on his bridge joined in. 50 ships against 500. "Admiral, you must be either very brave or very stupid." "We prefer to think of ourselves as very prepared," Kim replied. "You still have time to withdraw from our space. The only withdrawal will be your life from your body," Thex Moran said, and cut the transmission. The human fleet appeared on Vorthak sensors exactly as Admiral Kim had said. 50 ships moving in formation toward the massive alien armada. To every Vorthak commander, the situation seemed like a formality. They would destroy the human ships in minutes, and then proceed to Earth. "All ships prepare for combat," Thex Moran ordered. "This will be brief." But Captain Han Sung-min aboard the experimental destroyer Prometheus was preparing to show the Vorthak Empire something they had never seen before. His ship and the entire human fleet were equipped with technology that would change the course of the war. "All ships, this is," Admiral Kim came the transmission to the human fleet. "Project Prometheus is now active. Show them what happens when they cross the line we drew in the stars." The first quantum phase generators activated, and 50 human ships suddenly became something the Vorthak had never encountered. Ships that could exist in multiple dimensions at once, weapons that could phase through any armor, AI systems that learned from every attack. War Marshal Thex Moran was about to discover that conquering humanity would not be as easy as conquering the other 847 species the Empire had destroyed. Captain Han Sung-min felt the Prometheus shift into quantum phase as the Vorthak fleet opened fire. The enemy energy beams passed right through his ship as if it was not there. Around him, 49 other human vessels flickered in and out of normal space like ghosts dancing between dimensions. "All weapons lock onto target grid 77 Alpha." Han commanded his crew. "Prepare quantum torpedoes for phased detonation." The Vorthak weapons continued firing at targets they could not hit. while the human ships moved through their formation like phantoms. War Marshal Thex Moran watched his tactical display with growing confusion as his sensors showed human ships that appeared and disappeared without pattern. "What is happening?" Thex Moran demanded. "Why are our weapons not hitting them?" "Sir, our targeting systems cannot maintain lock," his weapons officer reported. "The human ships seem to exist in multiple locations at once." Dr. Shin Yun-kyung monitored the battle from her command center on Mars. The quantum phase technology was working perfectly. Human ships could temporarily shift into parallel dimensions, making them untouchable by conventional weapons, while still allowing them to attack enemies in normal space. "Phase shift holding steady across all vessels," Shin reported to Admiral Kim. "Enemy weapons are completely ineffective against our quantum fields." Lieutenant Colonel Bae Wan-ho led his fighter squadron through the center of the Vorthak formation. His quantum fighters were small enough to phase directly through enemy hulls before returning to normal space inside the alien ships. "Target the command bridges and engine rooms," Bae told his pilots. "Let them learn what it feels like to be attacked from the inside." The first quantum torpedoes struck 3 Vorthak cruisers simultaneously. The weapons phased through the alien armor and shields as if they did not exist, then detonated inside the ship's vital systems. The cruisers exploded from within, sending debris flying in all directions. "Impossible!" Thex Moran shouted as he watched his ships being destroyed by weapons that should not work. "Our armor should stop any projectile." "Sir, the human weapons are not following normal physics," his science officer reported. "They appear to be attacking us from inside our own ships." Engineer Kang Jin-A watched her adaptive AI systems analyze Vorthak tactics in real time. The alien formations were designed to maximize firepower against conventional enemies, but they were completely wrong for fighting ships that could phase between dimensions. "Admiral, the AI has identified optimal attack patterns," Kang reported. "The Vorthak formations leave them vulnerable to phased assault from multiple angles." Admiral Kim smiled as he watched the tactical display. "Implement attack pattern Delta 7. All ships exploit the gaps in their defensive grid." The human fleet split into smaller groups that attacked the Vorthak formation from above, below, and through the middle simultaneously. The aliens tried to adjust their positions, but their ships were too large and slow to match human maneuverability. Captain Han brought the Prometheus out of phase directly beside a Vorthak battleship. His quantum cannons fired point-blank into the alien vessel's hull. The energy beams phased through the armor and exploded inside the ship's reactor core. "Direct hit on enemy battleship Conquest of Worlds," Han's weapons officer reported. "Target destroyed." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships used their quantum technology to devastating effect. Vorthak vessels that had conquered thousands of worlds were being destroyed by weapons they could not understand or defend against. War Marshal Thex Moran watched his fleet take losses for the first time in his military career. In just 20 minutes, the humans had destroyed 47 Vorthak ships, while suffering only minor damage to 3 human vessels. "Sir, we must withdraw," his tactical officer advised. "Our weapons cannot engage targets that exist in multiple dimensions." "No," Thex Moran snarled. "We have 500 ships. Even if their technology is advanced, they only have 50 vessels. Continue the attack." But the numbers were becoming meaningless. Dr. Shin's quantum technology allowed human ships to fight as if they were in a completely different kind of war. The Vorthak fleet was designed to overwhelm enemies with superior firepower, but that strategy failed when the enemy could not be hit. Lieutenant Colonel Bae's fighters had destroyed the engines on 6 Vorthak destroyers by phasing inside them and attacking their power cores. The alien ships drifted helplessly as more human vessels appeared around them like predators surrounding wounded prey. "This is not warfare," one Vorthak captain transmitted to Thex Moran. "This is impossible. How can primitives possess such technology?" Engineer Kang's AI systems had now analyzed enough Vorthak tactics to predict their movements with 90% accuracy. Human ships began anticipating alien maneuvers and positioning themselves to attack before the Vorthak even realized they were in danger. "Admiral, the AI has learned their command patterns," Kang reported. "We can now predict where they will move their ships before they do it." "Excellent." Admiral Kim replied. "Begin Phase 2 of the assault. All ships target their command vessels." The human fleet shifted tactics from random harassment to focused destruction of Vorthak leadership ships. Captain Han led a coordinated attack on 3 enemy command cruisers using quantum torpedoes that phased through their bridges and detonated in their control centers. War Marshal Thex Moran felt his flagship shudder as human weapons struck systems throughout the massive vessel. Somehow, the primitives were attacking him from inside his own ship while remaining untouchable outside it. "Sir, hull breach on decks 40 through 60, his damage control officer reported. "The humans are somehow bombing us from within our own armor." Dr. Shin monitored power levels across the human fleet as the quantum phase generators worked at maximum capacity. The technology required enormous amounts of energy, but it was holding steady across all 50 ships. Phase field stability at 97%. Shin reported, "We can maintain quantum operations for another 6 hours at current usage levels." The battle was turning into a rout as more Vorthak ships fell to human weapons. The aliens began trying desperate tactics like ramming attacks, but human ships simply phased through them while firing quantum torpedoes into their hulls. "Sir, we have lost 127 ships." Thex Moran's tactical officer reported with fear in his voice. "The primitives have lost only 3 vessels." For the first time in 800 years, a Vorthak fleet was being defeated in open combat. The implications sent shockwaves through the alien command structure as officers who had never experienced defeat struggled to understand what was happening. Lieutenant Colonel Bay regrouped his fighters for another attack run on the Vorthak flagship. His quantum fighters had proven especially effective against large targets because they could attack multiple systems simultaneously from inside the ships. "All fighters prepare for coordinated assault on the enemy command vessel," Bay transmitted. "We end this now." 24 quantum fighters phased through the hull of Thex Moran's flagship and appeared inside the massive ship's critical systems. They fired their weapons at the reactor core's command centers and life support systems before phasing back to normal space outside the vessel. The Vorthak flagship began breaking apart as internal explosions tore through its structure. Thex Moran watched his command center fill with smoke and sparks as systems failed throughout the ship. "Sir, we must abandon the flagship," his second-in-command urged. "The ship is lost." But Thex Moran was staring at the tactical display showing the impossible reality of his situation. A fleet of 500 Vorthak warships was being destroyed by 50 human vessels using technology that defied everything the Empire knew about warfare. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human admiral," his communications officer reported. Admiral Kim appeared on the main screen with the burning wreckage of Vorthak ships visible behind him. "War Marshal Thex Moran, you have crossed our line and attacked our territory. This is the result." "How?" Thex Moran demanded. "How do primitives possess weapons that can attack from within our own ships?" "We are not as primitive as you assumed," Kim replied calmly. "Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first looked at the stars. You were warned to stay away from our space. This is impossible," Thex Moran said. "We have conquered 847 species. None of them possess technology like this." "Then you have been conquering the wrong species," Kim said. "Withdraw your remaining ships from our territory immediately, or we will destroy them all." Thex Moran looked at his tactical display showing the devastating losses his fleet had suffered. 312 Vorthak ships destroyed against only 7 human vessels lost. It was the worst military defeat in the Empire's history. "All ships retreat immediately," Thex Moran ordered. "Jump to hyperspace and return to base." The surviving Vorthak vessels fled human space as quickly as their engines could carry them. Behind them, the wreckage of their destroyed ships drifted through space as proof that the impossible had happened. Captain Han brought the Prometheus out of quantum phase and surveyed the battlefield. Debris from hundreds of alien ships floated around them, while the human fleet remained largely intact. "Sir, mission accomplished," Han reported to Admiral Kim. "The enemy has been routed." Dr. Shin shut down the quantum phase generators and began analyzing battle data. The technology had worked, better than anyone had hoped. Supreme Overlord Kethavarax stared at the battle reports with rage that made the air around his throne shimmer with heat. 312 ships destroyed by 50 primitive human vessels. War Marshal Thex Moran knelt before him waiting for judgment that both of them knew would be death. Explain to me how this happened, Kethvarax said in a voice that promised terrible consequences. Supreme Overlord, the humans possess technology we have never encountered. Thexmoran replied, their ships can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. Multiple dimensions. Kethvarax repeated slowly. You are telling me that primitives who have been in space for 30 years have mastered dimensional warfare? Yes, Supreme Overlord. Our scientists are analyzing the battle recordings, but they cannot explain how human technology functions. Kethvarax rose from his throne and walked to the tactical display showing the galaxy. The small blue dot representing Earth seemed to mock him with its insignificant size. Never in his 200 years of rule had any species inflicted such a defeat on the Empire. How many ships do we have in reserve? He asked his fleet commanders. Supreme Overlord, we can assemble 5,000 warships from across the Empire. Admiral Gorthax reported, it will take 2 months to gather them all in one location. Do it. Kethvarax commanded, summon every available vessel. I will personally lead the destruction of this human pest. On-Earth Fleet, Admiral Park Taemin, received intelligence reports about massive Vorthak ship movements across 3 galactic sectors. The aliens were gathering the largest armada in their history for a second assault on human space. Admiral, the numbers are staggering, his intelligence officer reported. Our scouts have identified over 4,000 ships converging on staging areas near our territory. Park studied the data while considering humanity's options. The first battle had been won through superior technology and tactical surprise, but the aliens would not make the same mistakes twice. What is the status of our fleet expansion? Park asked. Sir, we have completed construction of 80 new vessels. Equipped with quantum phase technology, his aide replied, we are also retrofitting older ships with the new systems. That gives us 130 ships total. Park calculated, against 5,000, that is still impossible odds. But Colonel Im So-young had different ideas about how to fight an empire. She commanded the Human Marine Corps Orbital Assault Division and specialized in unconventional warfare tactics. Admiral, with respect, large fleet battles may not be our best strategy, Im said during the planning session. The Vorthak think in terms of massive confrontations between opposing fleets. We should fight the war they do not expect. What do you recommend? Colonel Park asked. Hit and run attacks against their supply lines and isolated outposts. I'm explained. Make them spread their forces thin while we strike where they are weakest. Dr. Ro Kyung-soo arrived from the Enhanced Human Program with news about humanity's newest military development. His research had produced soldiers with improved reflexes, coordination, and strategic thinking to match alien physiology. Admiral, the 1st Battalion of Enhanced Marines is ready for deployment, Ro reported. They possess reaction times 50% faster than baseline humans and can process tactical information at superhuman speeds. Park nodded approvingly. How many enhanced soldiers do we have? Currently 500 with more in training? Ro replied. We are also developing enhanced pilots for our quantum fighter squadrons. The Vorthak Empire, meanwhile, was struggling to understand how their conquest of humanity had gone so wrong. Supreme Overlord Kethvarax demanded answers from his best scientists and military strategists. How do we counter dimensional weapons? He asked the assembled experts. Supreme Overlord, dimensional warfare requires massive energy expenditure. Chief Scientist Vexthok explained. If we can force the humans to maintain their quantum fields for extended periods, they will exhaust their power systems. And then, Kethvarax prompted, then their ships will be vulnerable to conventional attack. Vexthok said, we must engage them in prolonged combat until their technology fails. War Marshal Thex Moran had been spared execution to serve as an advisor on human tactics. His experience in the first battle made him valuable despite his failure. Supreme Overlord, the humans also possess adaptive computer systems that learn our strategies during combat, he warned. The longer we fight them, the more effective they become. Then we will overwhelm them quickly before they can adapt. Kethvarax decided 5,000 ships attacking simultaneously should crush them regardless of their technology. But humanity was not planning to meet the Vorthak in another conventional battle. Fleet Admiral Park implemented Strategy Hydra, named after the mythical creature that grew multiple heads when one was cut off. We divide our forces into 20 small fleets, Park explained to his commanders. Each fleet will operate independently, attacking Vorthak positions across multiple sectors simultaneously. Captain O. Se-jin received command of the new flagship Terra Invicta, equipped with the most advanced quantum technology humanity had developed. The ship could phase entire sections, of itself independently allowing for incredibly complex tactical maneuvers. Captain, your mission is to strike at the heart of Vorthak space. Admiral Park briefed her. We need to prove that nowhere in their empire is safe from human attack. Dr. Yang He-jin worked in secret laboratories developing humanity's ultimate weapon. Her research into space-time manipulation had produced devices that could tear holes in reality itself. Admiral, the prototype is ready for testing, Yang reported. We can create localized distortions in space-time that will trap enemy ships in temporal loops. How large an area can it affect? Park asked. Currently a sphere approximately 1 kilometer in diameter, Yang replied, anything caught inside will be frozen in time for several hours. The first human strike forces deployed using the new hit-and-run tactics Colonel Im had recommended. Small fleets of enhanced ships attacked Vorthak supply convoys and outposts across dozens of star systems. Target the fuel depots and repair facilities. Im commanded her assault teams. Make it impossible for them to maintain their fleet operations. Enhanced. Marines led by Colonel Im herself assaulted a major Vorthak logistics base on the planet Kepler-7. The soldiers moved with superhuman speed and coordination, overwhelming alien defenses that had never faced such capable opponents. Sir, the humans are attacking simultaneously in 47 different locations, a Vorthak intelligence officer reported to Keth Varax. Our defensive forces are spread too thin to respond effectively. How is this possible? Keth Varax demanded. They only have 130 ships, Supreme Overlord. They appear to have divided their fleet into very small units, the officer explained. Each unit strikes quickly, then disappears before we can respond. Captain O brought the Terra, Invicta deep into Vorthak territory to attack the massive shipyard at Rigel Station. The facility was building new vessels for the Empire's assault on Earth, but human quantum torpedoes turned it into glowing wreckage. Direct hit on the primary construction bays. O's weapons officer reported, the facility is completely destroyed. Similar. Attacks across Vorthak space disrupted the Empire's war preparations while demonstrating that human forces could strike anywhere at any time. The aliens found themselves fighting a war unlike anything in their experience. Dr. Yang's temporal manipulation. Weapons received their first combat test when a human strike force encountered a Vorthak patrol fleet. The experimental devices created bubbles of frozen time that trapped enemy ships helplessly. The temporal field is stable, Yang observed from her control center. Enemy vessels are caught in a causality loop that will hold for approximately 6 hours. Excellent, Admiral Park replied. That gives our forces time to complete their missions and withdraw safely. The Siege of New Sol began when Vorthak ground forces attempted to capture humanity's largest colony world. 2 million alien soldiers landed, expecting to overwhelm the human defenders through sheer numbers. Colonel Im's enhanced Marines proved that numbers meant nothing against superior training and technology. 50,000 human soldiers held off, the massive alien army using tactics and equipment the Vorthak could not counter. Sir, the human defenders are using some kind of personal phase technology, a Vorthak field commander reported. Our weapons cannot target soldiers who flicker in and out of existence. The enhanced Marines could phase shift individually, allowing them to move through enemy lines like ghosts. They struck at Vorthak command posts and supply lines while remaining untouchable to conventional weapons. Hold every position, Colonel Im ordered her troops. Show them what happens when they try to take human worlds. Supreme Overlord Keth Varax received reports of defeats across his empire as human forces proved impossible to pin down or predict. The primitives were fighting a completely different kind of war. Sir, they are not trying to hold territory, his military advisor explained. They strike quickly, destroy our infrastructure, then disappear before we can respond. Find their bases and destroy them, Keth Varax commanded. Supreme Overlord, we cannot locate their bases, the advisor replied. They appear to operate from mobile platforms that phase between dimensions. Dr. Rowe's enhanced soldiers demonstrated capabilities that shocked even their human commanders. Supreme Overlord Varax stood on the bridge of his personal super-dreadnought Empire's Wrath and gazed at the blue planet Earth hanging in space before him. Behind his massive flagship stretched the largest armada in galactic history. 8,000 Vorthak warships had gathered for the final destruction of humanity. Supreme Overlord, we have arrived at the human homeworld, Admiral Gorthax reported. Their entire fleet appears to be waiting for us. Varax studied the tactical display, showing the disposition of forces around Earth. The humans had assembled, every ship they possessed into a defensive formation around their home system. 200 vessels against 8,000. They choose to make their final stand here, Varax observed. How fitting that their species will die defending the world where it was born. President Moon Ji-hoon sat in the Emergency Command Center, deep beneath Seoul, as reports came in from Admiral Kim about the approaching Vorthak Armada. The numbers were worse than anyone had feared. Mr. President, the enemy fleet is massive beyond our worst projections, Admiral Kim reported from the flagship Defender. We count 8,000 vessels, including their Supreme Overlord's personal ship. Admiral, what are our chances? Moon asked, though he already knew the answer. Honestly, sir, the odds are impossible, Kim replied. But we are not fighting for victory anymore. We are fighting to show the galaxy that some species cannot be conquered. Dr. Yang He-jin made final preparations for humanity's secret weapon in her hidden laboratory on the far side of the moon. Her space-time manipulation technology had been expanded into something that could affect the entire solar system. Admiral, the temporal displacement array is ready. Yang reported to Kim, we can create localized time distortions throughout the Sol system that will trap enemy ships in causality loops. How many ships can it affect? Kim asked. Potentially thousands. Yang replied, but the energy requirements are enormous. We can only use it once, and it will drain every power source in the system. Captain Oh Se-jin prepared the Terra Invicta for what everyone knew would be humanity's final battle. Her ship had been equipped with Dr. Yang's most advanced weapons, including devices that could manipulate the fabric of space itself. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Vorthak flagship. Her communications officer reported. Supreme Overlord Varax appeared on the main screen, surrounded by the opulent decorations of his throne room. His 4 arms gestured dramatically as he spoke. Humans of Earth, I am Supreme Overlord Varax, ruler of the greatest empire in galactic history. He announced, you have caused me considerable annoyance with your pathetic resistance. President Moon appeared on screens throughout the human fleet as he responded to the alien leader. Supreme Overlord, I am President Moon Ji-hoon representing the free people of Earth. You were warned to stay away from our space. Your warnings mean nothing primitive. Varax sneered. I have conquered 847 species across 3 galactic arms. Your deaths will serve as an example to any who think they can defy the Empire. You made one mistake, Moon replied calmly. You assumed we would fight like the other species you conquered. We are not like them. All species say they are different. Varax laughed. They all beg and surrender in the end. We do not beg, Moon said, and we do not surrender. This is Admiral Park So-min of the Terran Defense Force. Show him what happens. When someone crosses the line, we drew. The battle began when Admiral Kim activated humanity's ultimate defense system. The entire Sol system had been secretly weaponized over the past months. Quantum mines hidden in asteroid fields activated simultaneously, creating an invisible web of destruction. Multiple explosions throughout the enemy formation, Captain O reported. The quantum mines are functioning perfectly. The first wave of Vorthak ships ran directly into the minefield, losing over 300 vessels in the opening minutes of combat. But 8,000 ships could absorb such losses and continue fighting. Activate the gravity wells. Admiral Kim commanded hidden platforms throughout the system, generated artificial gravity fields that pulled Vorthak ships out of formation. The aliens found their carefully planned assault disrupted by forces they could not see or predict. Colonel Im So-young led enhanced Marines in a desperate assault on Vorthak landing forces that had reached the moon. Her soldiers moved with superhuman speed through the alien ranks, showing no fear despite impossible odds. Sir, the humans are fighting like demons, a Vorthak ground commander reported. Our soldiers cannot match their speed or coordination. Supreme Overlord Keth Varax watched his tactical display with growing frustration as human defenses proved more complex than expected. The primitives had turned their entire star system into a weapon. "Deploy the solar cannons," Admiral Kim ordered as Vorthak ships began adapting to the defensive systems. Massive energy collectors hidden on Mercury began gathering power from the sun itself. When they fired, the beams were so intense they could vaporize entire Vorthak battleships in seconds. "Impossible!" Keth Varax roared as he watched another dozen ships disappear in solar fire. "How can primitives harness the power of a star, Captain?" O brought the Terra Invicta into close combat with a Vorthak supercruiser using Dr. Yang's space-time weapons to devastating effect. The human ship created localized distortions in reality that twisted the alien vessel into impossible shapes. Direct hit with temporal displacement torpedo. O's weapons officer reported, enemy ship caught in a causality loop, the Vorthak supercruiser found itself trapped in a bubble of frozen time, repeating the same moment over and over while human ships attacked it from all sides. Dr. Yang monitored the battle from her control center as her weapons proved their worth against the massive alien fleet. Space-time manipulation technology was giving humanity an edge that no conventional weapons could provide. Admiral the Temporal. "Fields are holding steady," Yang reported. "We have successfully trapped over 400 enemy vessels in causality loops, but the Vorthak numbers were still overwhelming, and Supreme Overlord Keth Varax was beginning to adapt his tactics to human technology. The aliens started spreading their formations wider to minimize the effectiveness of area weapons. All ships concentrate fire on the human flagship," Keth Varax commanded. "Destroy their command structure and the rest will collapse." Thousands of Vorthak weapons targeted Admiral Kim's ship defender with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But the flagship's quantum phase generators allowed it to shift between dimensions, avoiding the devastating attack. "Sir, the enemy is targeting us specifically," Captain Lee reported. "They are trying to eliminate our command capabilities. Then, we give them a target they cannot ignore." Admiral Kim replied, "All ships implement Final Protocol Omega." The human fleet suddenly separated into 12 smaller formations that attacked the Vorthak armada from every direction simultaneously. Each group used different tactics and weapons, making it impossible for the aliens to develop effective countermeasures. Colonel Im's enhanced Marines demonstrated the ultimate expression of human adaptability when they captured 3 Vorthak command ships through coordinated boarding actions. The aliens could not understand how primitive soldiers could overwhelm their advanced security systems. "Sir, the humans are inside our ships," panicked Vorthak officers reported. "They move through our defenses like they are not there." "How are they?" "Boarding our vessels," commanders demanded. "Sir, they appear to be phasing through our hulls," came the reply. "Our internal security cannot stop soldiers who can walk through walls." Supreme Overlord Keth Varax realized that this battle was unlike anything in his experience. The humans were not trying to win through superior firepower. They were using creativity, innovation, and pure determination to overcome impossible odds. "Supreme Overlord, perhaps we should withdraw and regroup," Admiral Gorth Axe suggested as casualties. "Mounted! Never!" Keth Varax snarled. "I will not be defeated by primitives. All ships converge on my position. We end this with overwhelming force." But Captain O had been waiting for exactly this moment. When the Vorthak fleet concentrated around their Supreme Overlord's flagship, she activated Dr. Yang's ultimate weapon, firing space-time singularity torpedo. O announced. The experimental weapon created a localized black hole that began pulling Vorthak ships toward it, including the Empire's Wrath. Keth Varax watched in horror as the laws of physics turned against him. "Impossible!" he screamed. "No species can create artificial singularities. We told you we were different." Admiral Kim's voice came over the communication system. "You should have stayed on your side of the line." The artificial black hole collapsed, after consuming dozens of Vorthak ships, but the psychological impact was devastating. The Supreme Overlord's own vessel had nearly been destroyed by weapons that defied everything the Empire understood about technology. Dr. Yang's final gambit came when she activated the system-wide temporal displacement array. Every power source in the Sol system contributed energy to create massive time distortions throughout the battlefield. "Admiral activating full temporal displacement," Yang reported. This will drain our entire power grid. Suddenly, half the Vorthak fleet found itself trapped in bubbles of frozen time. Ships that had been moving at high speed were suspended motionless, while their crews experienced the same moment repeatedly.